After being unanimously confirmed, Secretary of State Marco Rubio immediately met with his so-called Quad counterparts from Australia, India, and Japan. That signals a focus of the new administration on China as a possible threat or adversary. Rubio also supervised a 90-day suspension of all foreign aid payments, but not to Ukraine. They're going to continue to get their weapons. In the Middle East, Trump said that he was not optimistic about the prospects for the new ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas, and he eliminated Biden's sanctions against those West Bank settlers, there's like 16 of them, who were accused of violence against Palestinians that Biden imposed. Meanwhile, Israel appears to be taking advantage of the ceasefire to escalate its military attacks and encourage settler violence in Jenin and other places in the West Bank. Will Trump, a firm ally of Israel, be able to rein in his good buddy Bibi Netanyahu? Trump plans to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin during the next few weeks and says that they will discuss bringing an end to the Ukraine war. Most experts think Russia will wind up with about a fifth of Ukrainian territory and a guarantee that a rump Ukraine won't join NATO. You know, all the stuff that Russia wanted from the very beginning. Joining us is Nick Cruse. He's the host and co-founder of the Revolutionary Blackout Network and a political commentator. Nick, thanks for joining us here on the TMI show.
Hey, what's popping, guys? Thanks for inviting me on. I saw your previous segment regarding the recent Trump pardon to have the Libertarian Party very excited. I see a lot of celebration on Twitter and X, and I was thinking like the contrast between the two parties couldn't be starker, where you have the Republicans and Trump that is actually reaching out to the Libertarians, and they have made a concerted effort to win over the Libertarian. What does it say that the Democratic Party, which is the professional losers party, there's no attempt to even reach out to the Green Party? Compare that to, I don't know that much about Ross. I will learn a lot during your segment. I know it was something that Libertarians fought hard for because he was a victim of the United States justice system as well. So it speaks volumes, and this is the real reason why the establishment hates Trump, because he's just so much better at this than they are. he just outmaneuvers them. And I tell that to people all the time who have Trump derangement syndrome in my family, my friends, which is legit. I think it's fair because he's a part of the ruling class and people are mistrustful of the ruling class. But whenever I see people who are like uniquely afraid, I was talking to some relatives that was because they know I talk about politics after Trump won. They was like, oh my God, Nick, come on, what we gonna do now that Trump won? I want to get your opinion. But I'm like, dude, nothing gonna change. You realize that Trump is just like Bill Clinton. He's just better. Like he runs circles around the current ruling class, and that's why they're really upset. And that's shown with this move here. And the move that Trump is making. Go ahead, Manila.
And then Nick, I'm with you because it's not like I'm a big fan of Trump or I think he walks on water, you know, the second coming of Jesus or whatever. It has nothing to do with that. But because of Trump derangement syndrome that's still ongoing again, and I was praying that the mainstream media wasn't going to do this in the second go around, that maybe they've, you know, would curtail it a little bit and learn from Trump 1.0 that this whole, you know, TDS, it would be over by now. It's not. And the point is, when people like you or me or others point out actual facts that he just outgamed the game, he outfoxed them, then they're like, oh, you're secret, you're an op, you like Trump, no, I just think a couple of things he's done is good, like this free Ross Ulbricht thing. I think that is a good thing when he is trying to make his position clear that he's going, he freeing Ross is symbolic of saying screw you to the Biden and Obama DOJ that unjustly applied the law and chased after him. That's what that looks like to me.
Yeah, and I'm still not really impressed by Trump. It's just clear that he's the best among them. I hated Trump in 2015. I hated Trump's guts, but Trump destroying Jeb Bush was easily the most satisfying thing to watch. And that was coming from someone who hated Trump. The whole time I was like, man, I hate this motherfucker, but he's killing it. And that's the reality of why the establishment, wherever How you would define? I would define like the centrist Democrats and the Republican neighbors, the establishment. That's the real reason why they hate Trump, because he is, at the end of the day, the game of politics. It's a jobs program for bourgeoisie rich kids. So if you're a rich kid, you got good connections. That seat, California District 2 is yours when you're.
That's right.
That's how it works. And Trump disrupted that game. But go ahead, Manila. That's why they
never forgave him. I think that's a great point. They never forgave him for vanquishing Jeb in the primaries and then in the finals vanquishing Hillary Clinton. Then they never forgave
Manila,
him.
it's not Jeb, it's Jeb. Remember?
Jeb.
There was
Jazz
an exclamation mark. Jeb.
But why was it Jeb with an exclamation mark, and yet Trump pointed out
mark says excitement. It signals excitement. You're automatically
low
excited.
energy Jeb.
Oh God, Trump saved the Republican Party so much because that was their genius marketing maneuvers back in the day. Jeb with an exclamation mark.
That was
so Trump saved them.
That's true.
That's true. Rebranding campaign. Yeah.
I mean, so Nick, let me ask you. I mean, it's been my impression that Donald Trump reflects and has brought about a dramatic realignment, especially in foreign policy, between the two bourgeois capitalist parties, right? That sort of like how, from 1928 to 1932, the Democrats and Republicans kind of switched places on a lot of stuff. And Democrats particularly have switched places on foreign policy, where they've become the more militaristic party. Used to, think about where we were under George W. Bush, where, he was starting wars right and left, and doing regime change that we've forgotten about in places like Venezuela and like, Georgia and places like Kyrgyzstan. And now, this guy ran for president in a Republican primary and won in 2016 as criticizing the Iraq war as stupid, and negotiated with the Taliban to pull out of Afghanistan. But how does he reconcile this sort of skepticism that he articulated during his inaugural address, where he said, I want to have a strong army, but I want to be judged by the wars we get out of and the wars that we never start in the first place? How does he reconcile that with his support for Israel, who are basically, maniacal warmongers? Now that things are cooling down in Gaza, they're like, all right, let's turn our eyes to the West Bank and destroy that too. I mean, how does he fix that?
He doesn't. Trump is a great marketer, and that's what makes him actually a dangerous threat to the working class, and why he's actually a great boon to the ruling class. And the Mike Johnsons, they understood that. The smartest among them understood that. And don't get me wrong, there was an initial push to get rid of Trump. And this coming from the J.D. Vance right. Remember J.D. Vance, who said Trump is the next Hitler? So there was an attempt because they thought they can ruin him. But then when that failed, the smartest among them realized what was going on. So J.D. Vance, I would say, is a very politically astute, just playing the rules of their game. Like, this is not my personal praise, but the rules of their game, J.D. Vance won. He's a young vice president, right? So he was the smartest among them. Yeah. So even though we don't like him, it's just a simple fact that based on the rules of our society, he's extremely successful. And the reason why that is because he was able to put his finger in the air and see where the tide is changing. And as we mentioned earlier, Jeb with an exclamation mark, they thought they were going to sweep to victory with that. So what Trump reminded them of is how politics in America is like WWE, and Trump was a part of WWE. Mm-hmm. It's all about marketing. He's in
the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he beat the shit out of Vince McMahon apparently.
Oh, he's got Linda McMahon in I don't know if it's a cabinet position, but in his administration.
Yeah. I think she's Secretary of Education or some shit.
Oh,
I forgot all about that.
No, really?
I'm gonna look that up.
Education?
Yeah, I mean it's like Idiocracy, I swear.
Yeah, imagine being Stone Cold Steve Austin. You stunned most of the executive branch at this point. But anyway, the point being,
this is Small Business Administration. My apologies.
Okay.
The Donald Trump understood that in
America, I lied. I was right. She's been nominated to lead the Department of Education.
Yeah, that's
WWE to lead education.
That's awesome.
Dude, and Linda McMahon knew everything that that Vince was doing. Like Vince was caught in all these recent sexual scandals. Linda was right there with them, busting unions. Like the point is, like even outside the WWE thing, because there's obviously nothing wrong with that, making money, having fun. But Linda McMahon is corrupt. Like she's a union buster, and
That's
she
true.
was with Vince McMahon during the sexual assault allegations and all that. So it doesn't.
Right.
I'm not shocked or surprised, but I think it is interesting.
Well, I think she's gonna clothesline the teachers union then, if that's the case.
Well, she's supposedly shutting down. She's been given the job of shutting down the Department of Education, right? So she's the assassin.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Which I admit I have very mixed feelings about.
Me too.
At the risk of being yelled at by maybe some more well-informed teachers on the left, like I find the Department of Education to be a great failure. You know what I mean? Well, and once again, I'm very
be wrong.
Maybe if someone can tell me some information what the Department of Education actually fucking does. But from my experience, the Department of Education serves a role in brainwashing kids and supporting United States propaganda. So I don't understand why people on the left is defending it. But maybe I'm missing something. I would love to talk to a teacher. I'm not saying my opinion is holier than now. That's just my thoughts on it. I won't fucking
Well, there's two parts of that, right? There's two parts, right? Because the teachers union is the one that they try to hustle for the teachers, obviously for contracts, and I do believe teachers should be paid more. It's a hard job, I get it, but the Department of Education itself, I don't know about how they've institutionalized the American propaganda of America is the greatest, bright, whatever. Because what are we teaching our children? It
was horrible. And the only reason I say this, and I am open to be taught more new information, but when I grew up in Missouri, as someone who grew up under the Department of Education, they told me that MLK was a radical, was the enemy. Like they told us that MLK was the good guy, Malcolm X was the bad guy. Like the point overall I'm making is they taught us bullshit. They taught us nonsense like how the indigenous people, they actually got along with the colonizers. If the indigenous people, if they just got along, they just chilled the fuck out. Why was they so upset that we live in here, man? Just let us live here, man. If they would just chill, we wouldn't have genocided them, man. That was their fault. That's what they taught us. Like it is ridiculous to believe, but I remember being at a young age, like, man, it's sad it went down like that. Instead of the United States genocided them, you know what I mean? But
that's not the federal department. That was your state of Missouri or your local town.
Which is fair enough.
I mean, the Federal Department of Education doesn't set any guidelines whatsoever for curriculum because all of that is controlled with local control, local and state control. So like in Kansas where they don't teach evolution, that's the state. The whole idea when Jimmy Carter created this Department of Education was to they were hoping to federalize. This is why liberals liked it and still do. They were hoping to federalize education so that shit like that wouldn't happen anymore, where it's like some states don't get taught like, I thought they had like evolution.
The whole No Child Left Behind thing. And thus lowering the bar for everybody.
Yeah, and then basically the main effect that I would say has been negative has been all the standardized testing, like teaching to the test. That's coming out of the feds, I
appreciate that context. I just don't.
Problem.
I appreciate the context, and that's exactly why I don't trust them. I think my solution to it would to be to dismantle it and rebuild it with a market.
We kind of don't need it because the truth is we have state and local control of education, which we shouldn't. I'm against that. It should come from Washington. Like in most countries, it's federal. And it makes more sense. Like, let's say, a family moves in the middle of the school year. Well, if you move, like in France, from one town to another, you pretty much, the kid doesn't really lose, they don't really lose track. But like if you moved from one school district here to another school district, even, 2 towns away, it's going to be, you'll lose half a year easily,
Oh.
For sure.
I did not know that, but either way, you guys don't have to worry because now that we know, this was not a part of the planned program today, but now we know Linda McMahon is going to body slam the Department of Education.
She is.
Now we know.
I want to see her dressed like one of those like Mexican wrestler guys.
A luchador.
Oh, they're awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
What is this
Dude,
conversation turning?
I'm a big combat sports fan, but I don't know how anyone not respect what like luchadors do. Like my family, they're big. That's why I'm good with pro wrestling references because my brothers are super into it. But like the stunt, like it's the stunts that they pull. Like my brother, he trained in wrestling, he quit immediately. He's like, bro, you have no idea how hard it is on your body. And once he went through the training, he went through the training. After he told me what the training was like, I was more interested because he's like, bro, the shit they are doing, it takes years of getting your body prepared. So I'm watching like, dude, the stunts they pull is crazy, especially the luchadors. There are a lot of like slow type wrestlers that are annoying, but it's very what they do is extremely skilled. It's extremely skilled because look at Hollywood, and a lot of people like to dismiss pro wrestling, whatever. But Hollywood, they do these fucking stupid rom-coms where they take 45 takes to get a scene right. But meanwhile, pro wrestlers, they got one take that they do in front of a live audience. Do you guys know how hard that is?
And they do get into
skills. I'll watch. I'm like, dude, how is he doing that?
I never knew. Who knew?
Yeah, professional wrestlers get injured a lot. Like WWE guys, they come out of it with a lot of injuries.
Well, as a martial artist, I got a lot of respect for their craft. I'm a Muay Thai guy. I got a lot of respect for what they do. Like actors, they crumble. They have all these outtakes
too, Nick.
Huh?
Trump is into that stuff too. Remember, he goes
that makes me a
he's on the side of the octagon all the time,
yeah,
and it's turned into a right-wing thing now. Right, like they have politicized sports even like that. And this is, I'm not saying that the right has done this because I would argue it was all like left mainstream media left, and I use
how many leftists, Marxists were going to attend WWE matches anyway in the first place? I mean, Nick. It's like NASCAR. NASCAR's become right wing. No, I mean NASCAR was always right wing.
Yeah, you want to know the problem? And this is what is hilarious to me. And Democrats are like complaining about how Dana White and Trump is hooking up. You know how long it took New York to approve of the UFC? The New York had UFC banned until around like 2010. A lot of people don't know this because I'm a hardcore fan. It was a big deal when MMA became legalized in New York.
I remember
and then
that.
It was a big Madison Square Garden show. So people wonder, like, why is Dana White Republican? Because Democrats gave him hell. To be clear, John McCain did too. John McCain was extremely against anti-MMA, but all the blue states hated the UFC. So people wonder why he ran to the right as a businessman. And now think about this. There were so many young men like me that was willing to support a Democrat like Bernie Sanders. Look at me. I'm a young, toxic male into martial arts. I'm into weightlifting. I'm into all this man shit, right? But so then we entered the party after I quit. I voted for Joe Stein in 2016. I was done with the party. But Bernie comes in, and we're enthusiastic in supporting him. And what do Democrats do? They call us toxic Bernie bros. I'm being called a sexist. I'm being called a misogynist. I'm being called far right because I train MMA. Like, this is the kind of shit that's going on the left, and they wonder why they lost us. You know
the Bernie bro thing was such a lie. I mean, they ginned it up, and I was looking around for any evidence whatsoever that there were all these like macho Bernie dudes who were putting women down or like sandbagging Hillary because she was a chick. It's like that didn't happen. I mean, I'm sure it happened twice or something, but like it didn't really happen in any kind.
No.
It wasn't a real thing. It's sort of like the story of the Vietnam vets coming back and being spit on by hippies. That didn't happen. Like, it just didn't. So
that's why I spent a lot of my time as a citizen journalist early on debunking, because I obviously a young, especially much younger than black man who was supporting Bernie, and the messaging coming from suburbanite MSNBC liberals. Even the right will repeat this too as a jab. They would say, "Oh, socialism is being promoted by these young pink-haired college white women." And they would make it all about the white progressives, the black people. They're against this. Meanwhile, I'm like, the hood loved Bernie. And to your point that you was making, sorry, what's your name? I don't know if I'm Ted. Sorry, Ted. So to the point you was making, Ted, it was never true because Bernie had a large amount of Latino support. But not only that, when you look at the largest driver of socialism, this is the point I used to make all the time back in the day. And it's still true. when you look at polls, the largest driver of socialism is Black people and Asians. In terms of the highest amount of people who support it, Latinos hate it because we got a lot of like Cubans, class traders. So the Latino number is lower than you would expect. Black Asians dominate. So the message that was coming out of how the Bernie bros was white leftists, it irritated me at the time. I spent a lot of time debunking it.
Wrong.
But now, years after that, they are wondering why they lost our generation, why they lost people like me, why they lost the many young men who into sports, weightlifting.
Are you millennial?
I'm a young millennial. I'm 33, so I'm like just on the border.
Oh, you're
like
at the
2
cusp.
years. Yeah, I'm like a younger the youngest of the millennials. But they lost us when they. Not only that, there's so many different things. Like for example, Democrats are freaking out about Donald Trump pardoning January 6th protesters, and they're saying stuff like, "Oh my God, don't you know Trump pardoned these people who beat up cops?" And I'm like, "Are you cutting the promo for Trump? Are you trying to make him popular?" Because why as a leftist, why as someone who is distrustful of government, would I ever give the government the precedent of locking people 20 years? They will give people 20 years for protesting at the Capitol. Why the hell would anyone before that?
That's right. I mean, I was saying that just a couple of days ago. I mean, if you take the person who committed the worst crime on January 6th, which is probably someone who sprayed bear spray at one of the cops, that's the worst. I'm like, to me, that's a few months. You know,
right?
A few months. Tops. That's it. Tops. And I think
but the argument was that like 600 police reported injuries, but when you parse that out, no, it's not a lie. When you parse that out, what it is like, oh, I got my thumb smashed against the door. I got, it's shit like that. It wasn't injuries like bear spray to your face. It wasn't injuries. Like a baton to your head.
Like a bruise.
Was like, I crushed my thumb. I need an ice pack. As soon as you ask for the ice pack, that is a recorded injury with the department.
Cops are reporting those injuries so they can take like a couple of weeks off.
But that's of course. That's how they exploited the whole J6, like violent protesters, because 637 cops reported injuries and this many had to go to the hospital, because literally there were a number of them were like, oh, maybe I sprained my ankle because I got pushed. Maybe I crushed my thumb on the door. Or it was dumb shit like that. I got, like crushed, like I got smashed in between all the different people. So like, oh, I feel bruised in my chest. It's like, these are not, when you parse out the actual statistics of what actually happened, that's really what happened. And they use that to exploit, to suddenly protect the cops and go after protesters as they do, rather than the other way around of when we see cop violence on people.
And Nick, I think that's important, right? I mean, like when it comes to protesting, right? The left does it more historically than the right does. And like, we don't want there to be a precedent where, you can go to, you're protesting like BLM or whatever, and you can go to prison for 20 years because like some cop had a boo-boo. I mean, that's just completely, we don't want that at all. It's not good for us. And
and Democrats wondering why they lost us, because I watch a lot of corporate media when I break down media for my show, and I saw Bernie, he was doing it. Like all the progressives, they were doing it. They were like, "Don't you know the January 6th protesters, they beat up cops? This is the Trump pardoning these people who beat up cops. It's a threat to our institutions. That our institutions are being crumbled. The FBI agents,
not our precious institutions.
They work so hard. I got a segment playing RBN from RBN fans. They like the FBI. They work so hard to entrap these people, and now all their work is being thrown. This is the stuff Bernie is saying, and the progressives on MSNBC is saying. And my question is, who is this for? This worship of institutions. The Democrats are going through identity crisis because I've been explaining how Democrats are just Republicans with daddy issues.
On that note, I don't know why that made me think of the squad, which obviously we're going to talk about Marco Rubio getting confirmed 99-0. Nobody. Not one person in the Senate. And of course, that's the club that he came out of. Not
Right.
one person pushed back and objected to his confirmation, right? Like we know that he is a hard right-wing war hawk. He wants to go to war with China. He wants to go to war with Iran. He wants to continue war with Russia by
Yes.
proxy. It doesn't matter. He wants all those wars. And he gets confirmed by the Senate, not one opposing voice, not Bernie, not Tammy Duckworth. I'm not saying that she's like super far left, but she's part of the establishment, very quickly became part of it. But not one supposed left-leaning senator opposed his nomination. Not one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, remember, guys, Bernie Sanders believed that Nicolas Maduro is a tyrant, and he 100% support the United States overthrowing him. Why do you think he support Marco Rubio? Marco Rubio is a anti-communist psychopath, and I explained many times before. I don't know you guys' ideology, but you don't have to be a socialist or a communist for me to associate with you. But I explained many times before. I'm not going to draw that red line, but the red line that I do draw is I draw the line at anti-communism, because anti-communism is a destructive, barbaric ideology which led to the death of millions, and that's the ideology that Marco Rubio believes. It's a belief that communism must be snuffed out worldwide, and that means they're willing to do that even at the cost of the sovereignty of other countries. So Marco Rubio and Bernie Sanders, who's also a rabid anti-communist, they believe they have the right to sanction and destroy Venezuela because they won't vote for the political party that they want them to.
Yeah, that's fair.
So this is why, like, Bernie, he was on Hassan Piker, he doing the circuit, and progressives still worship this guy. They still think he's good faith when he's supporting Marco Rubio, a genocidal psychopath who called for Israel to finish the job in Gaza. Well, and last time, because I know you guys want to get in here, he also, and this is a stain on Trump, and is evident of what I've been saying for the last year or so, that Trump has no plans to end the Ukraine war, because his executive order, which a lot of people have been praising, which ended foreign aid, and I have a segment I'm gonna do on RBN on this here very soon. It excludes Ukraine, like, so he's ending all foreign assistance except to the assistance going to funnel the Ukraine proxy war, and now he hired one of the biggest proxy war cheerleaders in the Senate, Marco Rubio. But go ahead, guy. I know you.
No, I was just going to say, here. I totally agree with everything you say, and I'm a big commie myself. I was going to say, I think there's, we live in a strange political system where Marco Rubio is considered the easy to confirm, the mainstream guy who can get unanimous vote in the Senate, and then RFK Jr., who wants you to eat well,
go outside,
and Tulsi
eat
Gabbard,
well and go outside,
do some push-ups, has been skeptical at times of even though she's an active member of the U.S. military, of the intelligence community. Those two are the controversial picks who might not get through. That's fucked up. I mean, to me, if I were a senator, I'd be like, I think I can support RFK and I can let Tulsi slide, but I'm like, Marco.
Look, I mean, guys, I think that it tells you with the unanimous consent for little Marco is that it tells you the priorities of the upper chamber.
Mm-hmm. That's perfectly well said. And it also shows that, and we knew this, but it's always good to have more evidence, right? That both parties are driven to go to war with China. Name other than, I think Lindsey Graham got him beat. Outside of Lindsey Graham, name a senator that's more war hawkish against China than Marco Rubio.
Maybe. Well, and they all voted for that stupid fucking TikTok ban too.
Yeah,
I mean, not all.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we like it's at this point where it's pennies at that point when you talking about, but the level of anti-China hawkishness. But it doesn't get worse than Marco Rubio. Like, so yeah, this is the Senate saying that, yo, we all down for it. We all down for it. But go ahead.
The China stuff is very strange too, because I mean, I get like, okay, so with the Americans, you can convince the American public they're coasting on the fumes of the Iran hostage crisis, right? Like, oh, evil Iran, they kept our guys for 444 days, 52 guys. Okay, I mean, you're still smoking on that. Russia, they're coasting on the fumes of the Cold War. right? And all that. And it's okay. But with China, what has China ever done to the United States? I mean, they're completely non-militarily expansionist.
They gave us pandas.
They never invade anyone. I mean, they had a little border skirmish with Vietnam. They had a little border skirmish with Pakistan in 1962. But they've been staying put. And, we're supposed to defend Taiwan if something happens, but we can't because we don't legally even recognize Taiwan as a real country. So, I mean, I'm really curious how they're going to sell this to the public.
Yeah, and they've been successful as of recent history. Things may change a lot recently, but I've showed polls on my channel how the opinion against China is mostly extremely negative among the American population, which is wild. Like you see, and I had a class with someone I even agree with a lot, like Shama Sawan is someone I had a lot of respect for. I organized with her, but even we had a disagreement on my show where she was spreading anti-China. So I'm like, Shama, you gotta stop that. You know what I mean?
Really?
So it's like this is the propaganda that have worked against Americans to convince them that somehow China is the enemy. And whenever you hear like people on the right, neocons, et cetera, whenever they talk about China and why Americans should hate them, it's the most hilarious shit you will ever hear in your life. I told you.
On that note, go ahead, finish your thought, and then I'll ask you.
I'll be real quick, but I watched Our Enemy Like a Hawk, and when they're trying to convince us why we should hate China, to Ted's point, they essentially say stuff like, "Man, China is a giant threat. They are building their economy. They're creating trade programs, and they are reaching out to African countries and creating alliances. Isn't this why China's so bad? So they're doing stuff that a country does." Like Fox News does the same segment every week. They have a segment, at least they run at least once a month, where they say, "Oh my God, the Chinese, they are expanding their military. Aren't they evil?"
Yeah.
You mean what we do all the time? And
on that note, I mean, literally with the TikTok, Ted brought it up, the TikTok ban and all that, Trump kicking that can down the road, 70 whatever days that he said he was gonna, right? Because now, it curried favor for him because young Barron, I think, was his social media campaign chair or whatever. And they blame bros like you, Nick, young men that are into, the manosphere, as they framed it, right? On TikTok, on all that stuff, because that's, I guess, encompassing of the manosphere. But then with the TikTok ban looming, all these Americans moving over to Red Note, right? And now they're like, wait a minute, this is actually, this backfiring. This is actually owned by China. Hold on, wait. So there is a difference between Singapore and China.
Jesus.
That part was my favorite part with Tom Cotton, who's up there, I'm going to say, with Lindsey Graham. I think we forgot about him. We should not forget about him because he deserves to be called out as another top tier Senator Warhawk. But yeah, now all the younger people, I mean, I got a Red Note. I wanted to check it out. I actually like it. I'm going to keep it. I like it.
What do you like about it?
Now, is that the new fear? What do you think about that? With the China takeover of American minds, now they're on Red Note.
Yeah, it's been an amazing cultural exchange, and I'm staying on there. I've been talking to many Chinese comrades, and I was joking on Twitter today. Well, I was joking how the People's Republic of China is horrible at propaganda because there's many people in China that didn't realize that many Americans live in squalor. They have this idea, and they've been propagandized by Hollywood movies. By a lot of movies, I see them quote all the time, that Americans are wealthy. So we've been explaining, many Americans have been explaining how many of them in medical debt, how much percentage they spend on their rent, and people in China is absolutely horrified. So now China realized that the best way they can achieve their goal of peace, because China is not as radical as many of us want them to be, because I would love for China to be an agent to overthrow global capitalism. And that is not what China is, my friends.
Yeah. They are
China
capitalist.
wants to build and want to maintain growth with capitalist countries like the United States, which as a capitalist state that makes sense that you care about
Sorry, go ahead. Country that has red and yellow banners all over the street. But they're still a capitalist country.
Yeah, they still want to maintain the global market infrastructure, and to me it makes sense why they want to, because they care about the prosperity of their people. They're not here. Their job is not to help us overthrow capitalism. They're here to provide for the people. So I understand why they do that, but China, only thing they want is peace. So they realize the best way to achieve this is to simply allow Chinese people to talk to Americans. The Great Firewall that they put up, preventing Americans to sign on social media, was created because China was worried about Americans, and obviously the CIA and all these bots, which still operate in China, by the way. They was afraid that they would corrupt the minds of the Chinese, and they was actually extremely wrong. The one thing that's happening is Americans are like, hey guys, we are fucked. This is why everything in America is horrible. And now Chinese people, oh my God, we didn't realize how great we had it. We thought our government was lying to us. But anyway, go ahead.
Right, they thought it was the propaganda the other way. Like, oh wait, you guys are broke and poor too? Like, like I mean, young people everywhere around. I would say your generation for sure has like the bleakest outlook for their future. Right? It doesn't matter what country people are in. The end millennials like you are the ones that are like, I should be buying a house, I should be getting married, I should be doing all these things, but I can't because I can't afford to. And now with this crossover from TikTok to Red Note, it's the young millennials that are communicating with each other cross borders going, oh, and like you said, the Chinese ones were like, oh, I guess we're doing better, and to better than we thought. And to China's credit, while they do have, their version of oligarchs, like, and big tech bros like we have here, right? To their credit, they have, in the course of the end of the 20th century, brought the most people out of abject poverty than any other country has ever seen across the world. So whatever you think of their style of communism, there's proof in the pudding in those numbers that, but that's, very few Americans knew that before last week.
Yeah, and obviously as Marxists, our job is to constantly pushing the ruling class to achieve better. So that's why I understand the reflex that many people in the West have to critique Chinese communism. But for the American leftists who say stuff like, China is actually, we shouldn't model them because they're a capitalist country. And then people on the right, they crack me up because they'll say, hey, why are you praising China? Don't you know they're capitalists? I'll be like, okay, how about we implement some of the reforms? If you think China is so capitalist, let's implement some of the reforms that China has, and let's see how happy you would. Because China sees the banks. They implement landlord reforms where people can only own 2 plots of land and they can't rent it out to a profit. So for all the Americans, especially the ones on the right, they say, oh, don't you know China is not really a communist, actually a capitalist country? Because I see that a lot of liberals say this in order to justify why red note people live comfortable. That it's actually capitalist. Okay, let's implement some of their capitalism then, where landlords essentially crippled, where the banks own where the people own
hedge
the
funds. The hedge funds in America buy up all the single family houses, which is why people in your generation cannot afford to buy single family houses, because now hedge funds have crept up into suburban neighborhoods and buying one-off homes everywhere. So I didn't know that about China's like no land grab policy. I just learned that from you. I didn't know. But I think that's pretty wise, because it would prevent, the tyranny of the top 0.01% owning all the land in your country.
Yeah, and it also, and the existence of China also debunks the capitalist doomerism that prosperity is not possible under a socialist model. Because they're like, oh, you're a socialist, so you want everyone to be poor. No, I want everyone to have fucking money. I'm a worker. We Marxists, we build things. We advance society and humanity. What we are advocating for, the people who actually get their hands dirty don't have their labor exploited. And if you're able to benefit off of said society, that's great. Like, because as people mentioned, China has billionaires. But you will never have more power than the collective public. So the reason why there's massive corruption in the United States is because there's no doubt in our mind that the billionaire have more power than the government. So whenever the capitalist class has more power than the government, that leads to corruption and mistrust. Because at that point, you believe that every single move the government makes, which is true, is due because of the profits of the capitalist class. So why are we waging war in Ukraine? Raytheon profits, Boeing profits.
Yeah, for sure.
Why are Americans initially dismissive, and why they are, and I think they are valid to believe this, why they don't trust a Pfizer vaccine. They don't trust a Pfizer vaccine because they believe, rightfully so, that the Pfizer vaccine is being used and sold to the American people for profit. They don't give a fuck about it. So you guys see where the mistrust and the corruption comes from? It comes from when the capitalist is stronger than the government. When the government have more power than the capitalists, you know the government is not making decisions on behalf of the capitalists. In fact, the capitalists must behave or their ass will be locked up like the billionaires in China who thought they were stronger than the government. Hopefully, I don't want to go on a rant, but hope you guys understand that concept on why, even though they have billionaires and they have people who are extremely successful in China, it's a principle of the dictatorship of the proletariat that they implemented where these people will never become more powerful. You guys understand? And if we get halfway there in America, that would solve a lot of problems. Can you imagine if Elon Musk was terrified of us? You know what I mean? It's Steve Jobs. Go ahead, Ted.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, I'm reminded of one of the White House tapes under Nixon that was leaked maybe about 20 years ago, and it always stuck with me. Was a conversation. Nixon had just imposed wage and price controls to try to fight inflation. And that's a socialist move, right? That's basically a planned economy. And it really pissed off the economic ruling class, the corporations. And I think it was the CEO of GE, if memory serves, but one of those big Fortune 500 companies is recorded talking to Nixon on the phone, complaining and whinging about it. And Nixon at some point, and he's basically like threatening Nixon, like the boys are not happy, you got to change this, our profits are tanking. And Nixon basically says, now you listen to me, you son of a bitch. Like, I'm the fucking president of the fucking United States. Yeah. And if I want to send soldiers in there to kill you, you will be dead within a couple of hours. So shut the fuck up and don't fuck with me and don't call here again. And I remember thinking, I bet American president has never spoken to those people like that ever since. That was the last hurrah of government power over corporate power.
Yeah. But and you know what, speaking of Nixon, let's not forget he was the first sitting US president to make his way over to China and open up communication. And I don't know how you feel about this, Nick, but do you have any hope that Trump, I mean, whatever people think of Nixon, you can't take that away from him, right? He was the first one to open up our, dialogue.
Well, a liberal Democrat couldn't have done that. A President McGovern couldn't have done that, wouldn't have gotten away with it.
So do you have hope? I mean, especially given that we have little Marco in there, Secretary of State, do you think little Marco's going to stay in line? Or do you, is Trump going to pull his reins in and be like, look, you're going to execute my foreign policy vision for the world? Or are we going to see little Marco run game like Pompeo did and run game like Blinken did? Because we know Biden was not the president. Blinken was the shadow president. So are we going to see him do a Blinken, or are we going to see him be basically, I mean, part of my language, but is little Marco going to be Trump's bitch?
Fam. Something that people should remember is that Donald Trump is 78 years old. He is no Joe Biden. Like, he obviously is no Joe Biden, but Trump is an old man. So Trump, despite how he marketed himself, these things take a toll on you. And Trump is not necessarily a geopolitically, intellectually curious person. He does think outside. This is why he's better than the swamp, because he does think outside of how the swamp usually thinks. But this is why I say it's important to listen to not what they say, but who they hire. Because Trump may have good instincts, but Trump, and this is my read of the guy, he cares more about the marketing. He cares more about being the face of the place. That's why there was a lot of inconsistencies in his first term. That's why he said he claimed he was for peace. They say he was for peace, but he expanded the sanction regime. There's a lot of his hypocrisies there. That's because Trump may believe in these things ideologically, but he's more interested in selling the idea while people like Marco fucking go crazy in the background. So to answer your question directly, it's going to be another Anthony Blinken situation. It's going to be another Mike Pompeo situation where Trump is selling the idea of MAGA. He may have some influence, but he's not going to fight Marco if Marco puts in a strong recommendation to wage war against China, because Trump is just like Joe Rogan, where whoever the last person he talks to is the person who's going to influence him the most. So if he surrounds his cabinet with neocons like Marco Rubio, who's the person talking to him? So Trump may have those instincts, but I don't see him fighting his cabinet like that. I mean, we see if I'm wrong, but based on who he's hiring and based on the decision that I've seen, I still got to do a segment on it. The fact that they're not cutting off Ukraine aid, the fact that he wrote up the joke of a Russian peace plan that he knew Russia would never agree to, just so he can set up saying, "Oh, we tried." To me, it's clear that he's gonna, just like all presidents, he's gonna continue the empire. But he's also kind of dangerous because he's gonna market it way better.
Yeah,
But,
I do think. I think the last person going to be in his ear is going to be Elon. Honestly, I really do think Elon is going to be the shadow president, the shadow vice president. I think that guy is going to be the last word in Trump's ear at night.
I can see that. And that make it even less likely that we will see peace because Elon directly benefits from military contracts. So if there's more conflicts, that means they would need Starlink in the area of the conflict, so the military will have access. Well, I know
he wants Tesla to proliferate in China because China has a huge EV market that trumps Tesla by a gazillion times, right? But he wants to proliferate Tesla so that he has market interest there. Elon's smart. He's hedging his bets because he's got businesses of all sorts, right? Yeah. And so no matter which way the government goes, if they go towards war, like, hey, I got Starlink for you. Hey, I got servers for you. Hey, I got electricity for you. What do you need?
Starlink will proliferate just as well under peace. I think both Trump and Musk as internationalist business people have more interest in peace than in war.
I can see that.
They can make more money that way. And that's why I think
Peter Thiel is someone we got to worry about. I think I kind of agree with that. I can see what you're saying, but I think Peter Thiel with Palantir, the AI company used to kill Palestinians. Peter Thiel is huge influence in Trump. But I do think you got a good point, Ted. Sorry to interrupt. Please.
No, I was just going to say.
That guy, he's a JD Vance guy.
I got to say, I think Trump's, my instinct, obviously we don't know, right, what's going to happen. But my instinct is just that Trump really hates war. He just does. I mean, we saw this, with his rhetoric about Iraq. We saw it with his policy about Afghanistan. He's been very clear. He doesn't like wars. And he told Netanyahu, you got to wrap it up before I take over. He's told Zelensky, we're going to have a little peace talk here. So it's not like he's not going to be the peacemaker that maybe we would want, but he's definitely not going to be trying. I don't see him starting a war with China. Even if Rubio tells him we got to bomb China.
I don't think he's going to start a war with China. According to what I think, and this is all speculation to be clear, the NATO plan, I think we're going to see the conflict with China escalate around 2030. Like whenever you ask these European leaders, that's like the year they float. The Navy said they'll be prepared by 2027. I think that's optimistic. Whoever will be present in 2028 will be critical. So I think you're 100% right. It won't be Trump. I think Trump will will climb the escalation ladder. You know what I mean? He will be the setup to the China war. He won't be reelected unless he does some crazy Don shit and say fuck term. I don't think he's gonna do that. I think that liberal derangement syndrome. But if JD Vance wins 2020, he may be the guy. I can see Pete Buttigieg being the guy. You know what I mean? So I think I agree with you. I don't think Trump is gonna start a war with China. I think it'll probably be maybe if I'm wrong. I think at latest the 2032 president, whoever win that election, will be the decider. At the latest, I think. But go ahead, guys.
Yeah, not Pete Buttigieg though.
Oh, I think Pete Buttigieg is high on the list. Very high on the Democratic list.
That's how weak their bench is. Come on.
Yes.
Who else? You tell me.
Ted, you're 100% right. Because Pete was relatively unknown when he ran last time, and I know we haven't paid attention to this, but he's beloved among the liberal class now because over the last few years he's been going on Fox News and he's been doing this Fox News exchange thing. I'm keeping you guys up to.
It's true.
Up to
He's
know
always
because
on there.
I've been paying attention to this shit. So he's gonna be the guy. I promise you. And I
think
know
there's
it
a strong
seems
chance. He's on the short
incomprehensible.
list, very short list.
Yeah, he's gonna be one of them. I know it may seem incomprehensible to believe that, but I thought it was incomprehensible that Kamala Ware would be vice president.
It's the way Democrats think too. It's like, oh, we've now run 2 women, we've run a person of color. Now we get to try a gay guy. That's what this is about.
Absolutely. And so I definitely see them grooming.
They haven't learned their lesson that you can't just run based on like checking the check marks that you think are right.
The Democrats think that they did everything great in the last election. They think that they didn't message.
You think
properly.
That's genuine, or you think that's like
really
that's genuflecting?
They think
when they go on Rachel Maddow's show.
They think they need better propaganda. That's what they think. They think like if everybody really understood how awesome we were, then and how great like Biden was.
They think
it's
great us
the economy,
that we don't get.
Don't believe your lying wallet. It's like,
they think we don't get how great they are, so they don't therefore have to change.
Bam.
And I add this. You want to know who else is doing it, but to the nth degree? Bernie Sanders. I have a segment planned on RBN2. I sent out a tweet today about it. I saw Bernie Sanders. It's on CNN's YouTube channel. Bernie Sanders went to CNN not to eviscerate the Democrats as any leftist should, but Bernie been doing these interviews, essentially giving Democrats advice on how to lie to the working class. Mm-hmm. And his message is, I am very proud of what Biden accomplished. We accomplished a lot. He's the most progressive president of all time. Well, where we went wrong is we didn't message it right. This is the position of not fucking Amy Klobuchar. This is the position of the quote-unquote farthest left in the Democratic Party, is that they essentially got to convince workers that their policies are already good.
Nick, tell me what you think. I'm really glad you brought up the Bernie thing. And, I wrote like a big book on Bernie, so I'm really obsessed with Bernie. But like, you remember, like right after the election, right, the day after, he put out this screed, like he slipped, the wolf is loose. He slipped loose off his leash, and like the Democrats forgot the working class. That's why this all happened. I'm gonna in the next few weeks, you're gonna be hearing more from me. Like I'm 83 years old. Fuck you all. I'm gonna do what I want now. Right? It's like, and it's here we are. It's been well beyond 3 weeks. Not only has that not happened, but he obviously they got to him, right? I mean, they got to him.
Yeah, they're not investigating his wife's university anymore, aren't they? No. There are a lot of people think that's where they got him at. I think it's
they got
Bernie. This is my theory. Obviously, we will never know. Obviously, there's the wife, shady college situation, but Bernie has grandchildren, guys. Mm-hmm. Bernie talks about it all the time, how he has grandchildren that he wants the best for. So, Matt, we are going against the most psychotic psychopaths in recent human history. So you think that the liberal class wouldn't threaten not physical violence against his grandchildren, but ruin their potential financial aspects? They could easily go to Bernie and say, "Man, I know you about to die. But if you screw us, we will make sure that your grandchildren never get accepted in school." I can easily see them making them threats. So Bernie looking out for his family and obviously his own comfort as well. That's why I think they use the grandchildren against him. Like if Bernie screwed the system, they will go after their children. And I think that and I know I may not be. I have no evidence for this. I acknowledge this, but this is the only thing we can use to explain the malicious sellout, which is Bernie Sanders. Because I'm gonna do the segment maybe next week after I'm done moving for the RBN fam. But he was just on CNN. It was disgusting. Every time you hear him, it's disgusting. Just him. They still apologizing for Biden as if the election is still going on. You know what I mean? That's the rolling. And I really wish I listened to Michael Parenti. I really wish I listened to Chris Hedges. And I love how you say you're obsessed with Bernie. I am too, because the propaganda he's doing on the working class is the most complicated and sophisticated. He played a very particular role for the ruling class. And it's so effective that it tricked me. It tricked me a few years ago.
Sure.
And I know I'm way more perceptive now. I
dumped Bernie a few years ago.
Yeah, you were the smartest among us. So I was
like,
obviously not as as sharp as I was a few years ago, but I was still very distrustful of politicians. Don't get me even when I felt for I was like, I will never vote for the duopoly again. But that's how effective the Bernie shit is. They tricked a young me. So that's why we gotta expose these people, because they are one of the most useful friends of the oligarchy that give progressive credibility to an imperialist genocidal party. That's why when Ro Khanna went on my show and said, will you ever support Bernie Sanders or me or a progressive if we run in 2028, because he was testing the waters on RBN, I was like, hell no. Would I ever waste the working class resources like that ever again? You know what I mean? But I'm ready. Go ahead, Ted.
No. I appreciate you giving us all this different perspective. I wasn't even planning on keeping you. We weren't planning on keeping you this long, but I appreciate you being here because the conversation just kind of naturally flowed. But basically, I think your outlook for this is that you're not hopeful for a Rubio Secretary of State like next. You think he lasts 4 years?
No,
it's a damning sign of the incoming Trump administration. There are a lot of optimism, especially among the libertarian right after his recent pardon, after the ceasefire head fake, that's the fake ceasefire. There's a lot of optimism that Trump may shake things up, but wait, just wait, guys. This happens every time.
Are you with Ted? Do you think he's going to last 4 years? Do you think Rubio will stick around for the whole term?
I think he will. I think he will just because he's supported by the duopoly. 990 is pretty strong. You know what I mean? He's going to play by the rules. Any controversies that Rubio have will be like controversies among the proletariat, which no one gives a fuck about. Like, he's not going to do anything that's going to piss off the ruling class. So that would be my guess, right?
Yeah, he's going to play by their rules. Fuck Trump's rules. He's going to play by the deep state, the ruling class rules, and he will. I think he'll remain in power. I think he's clever enough to sit tight and just stay there in that position that he has because it's so powerful. No matter what Trump says to him behind closed doors, bitches him out, whatever, I think Rubio will stick it out. He'll be there because there's a greater cause for him behind closed doors that none of us are privy to. Again, I don't have any evidence of this other than having been a Capitol Hill reporter, and I kind of get the vibe, and I kind of know what these people are like. So, I appreciate you sticking around to talk about all of that stuff about projections for the, Trump administration. Really appreciate it. And I hope you come back. I know you moved some stuff around. I hope your move goes well. Are you staying in Central? Are you mountain time? You're mountain time.
Yeah, I'm in Central.
Central time.
I'm just. I got a lot of ops, so I'm gonna say I have a nice place. I'm set up a nice studio. It's been a long time coming. I'm just happy to get this move done. So I won't be on live or for the rest of this week. I'll be back next week. But anytime, it's always great to do these shows.
Appreciate it. And moving is such a big.
And great to meet you, Ted. I think the first time I see you, I think we did a show with Radio Sputnik before, but I
thought so.
Yeah, I think this is the first time we've seen face to face, so it's great to meet you.
Yeah, you were
definitely down to do these shows more often. It was
for sure.
Very great conversation.
Please come.
You should invite Ted on your show too. He's like a walking encyclopedia. I don't like now that you've kind of interacted face to face. I always joke about how Ted is like those Snapple caps with random bits of trivia. Like, he knows all this weird history, and he's great, like historian context. Like, so, and I think you guys see eye to eye a lot with the whole. With the whole communism. I'm not a commie, you pinko bastards. No, I'm but I don't hate any.
We're working on you.
Like I said, I was a Bernie supporter. I'm from California. There was a lot of that in my roots, and but as I got older, I kind of leaned more not hardcore libertarian by any stretch, but I'm politically homeless. So
yeah, communism is a very complicated science. Marxism is a complicated science. So that's why I never begrudge people, especially in the modern age. A lot of people hate labels because the way labels are abused. So I would never begrudge someone who's communism
has a lot of baggage too.
It's very complicated. So the biggest thing is, are you class conscious? And I will draw the line if you're anti-communist. Like if you're a crazy Tucker Carlson I don't mess with those people.
Like a crazy super right wing and tunnel vision. Yeah, I don't fall into any of those categories. My personal beliefs are like sovereignty, that's a lot of libertarian stuff, basically, if I just kind of summarize it, and not the right libertarian, like more just leave everybody alone. Let's focus on our country. Let's get our kids educated. Let's get our people housed, fed, educated, and like just stop dropping bombs on
under
people.
Capitalism, sorry.
So, that's just me. And like, leave people alone. They want to run their business and let people smoke cigarettes at their bar that they own. So fucking what? You don't go to a bar to be healthy. RFK's not going to be hanging out at the bar. He's going to be at like, some salad bar. I don't
know. I don't think RFK has passed up too many drinks lately.
Well, no, not now. He gave up alcohol like 30 years ago.
God, his face looks like Iggy Pop.
Right. No, I told you. You're so fucked up, Ted.
I know, you told me.
Dude,
I know.
First of all, he's a super pale skinned Irish American Catholic, right? Like, and he grew up like windsurfing. He got all that sun damage, and then he used to drink heavily. So when he was young, then he cleaned up. So that's why from the neck up he looks like that, and then from the neck down,
he looks like someone walked up,
you're
like
70?
He's using his face to walk on. But all right.
You're so awful, mean. Haters. He looks great for 70, just not from here.
His whole body's leathery like that.
Because it's a lot of sun damage. And when you're like a pale skinned Irish American, that's,
don't live in California. Happen. Yeah, right.
Yeah, and he's a Californian married to a Hollywood celebrity. You're out on the beach all day. You're gonna look like that when you're 70.
As one does.
Did not know that he was a falconer. So there you go. But Nick, this conversation has way spun out of control, talking about falconry and the Kennedys. But appreciate you so much. Good luck on settling in and moving and all that stuff, because it is always a pain, and that you've carved out some time for us. Appreciate it. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you, guys.
Nick.
Make sure you guys check out RBN. He always does great stuff, great topics. Thank you, Nick.
Have a good one, guys. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.